Good morning, everyone. Please have a seat. Good morning, and thank you for coming out. I am so excited to give out all the brochures for today. If anyone has not received one, we have plenty around so that you can have a piece to take home of this wonderful dedication. My name is Kathy Lucero. I'm the co-chair with Chuck Viola for the Woburn 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington, April 19, 1775. Today we are here to pay tribute to the men of Woburn who traveled Battle Road when they marched on the alarm on April 19, 1775, 250 years ago. The road was old at the time of the Revolution. It was one of the first 4 public ways laid out by the founders in 1644. It was originally called Sawpit Lane. Then it was called Old Lexington Street, referred often as Battle March Road. And as we know it today, it's Battle Road. It remains much as it did in 1775. Its stone walls still exist. The road is truly one of Woburn's treasures. And I hope later you get to, even in the rain, you get to walk down with one of our tour guides. Ella, this beautiful little girl.
Hello. Hey, hey.
Please stand for the national anthem.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight? Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You did a great job. Ella is 11 years old. She's in the 5th grade at the Goodyear School. Thank you, Ella. The star of the show. At this time, I'd like to start the program if I could, please. And I'm going to start. My hand's stuck. They're wet, sorry. We have a Liberty Pole ceremony, and for those who don't understand what it is, we're going to walk you through that now with a demonstration that was very important to the men and women before 1775. Before April 19th, Woburn was caught up in the spirit of political unrest. Many in their town wanted to govern themselves and no longer be bound to England. It was a town divided, which made the talk of rebellion very dangerous. Many patriots, or rebels, as the lawyers would call them, began erecting liberty poles or liberty trees. These poles were a symbol of defiance against the king's policies, and the red cap signified liberty and freedom to those who refused to be enslaved. Those who were caught erecting these poles, like Samuel Thompson that you will hear from, faced arrest, fines, and even death. I'd like to introduce Samuel Thompson at this time. Sorry, Samuel, I think I dropped this.
Today,
I am Samuel Thompson. My brothers Daniel, Abijah, and I have strong anti-crown and pro-liberty feelings, and we have made them known at many town gatherings. When the town voted down liberty poles on town property, my brothers and I decided to put it on our property on Elm Street. We may consider ourselves British citizens, but Prime Minister Lord North and Parliament have made it clear that we are no more than slaves and second-class citizens. Shall we stand for this? No! The statement he made back then, on this pole when colors fly, then all the sons of liberty shall to this place retire. And best of drum on all alarms, and here is a rendezvous to arms and freedom's cause requires. We're freedom's sons, and join as one in liberty's defense. If need, we'd fight for our just right. In witness then before God and men, we rear this lofty tree. And as a sign, we're of one mind, we call it liberty.
Hear ye, hear ye!
When a slave in Rome was freed, he was given a red cap for all to know that he was no longer a slave. Neither shall we be slaves any longer.
Samuel Thompson was a prominent citizen in Woburn. Got that one. He served to the French and Indian War. He's known as the famous diarist who wrote about his episodes every single day in the French and Indian War, which we still study today. He is also a deacon. He was a deacon in the First Congregational Church. He was representative in the General Court 8 times. He was the surveyor who helped Colonel Baldwin develop and build the Middlesex Canal. And he is often referred to as the cultivator of the famous Baldwin apple. Thank you, Samuel. This is David McKenna, and David McKenna is the president of the Danvers Historical Society and former selectman from the town of Danvers. Thank you.
And born in Woburn.
And born in Woburn. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce Kate Fox. Kate is the executive director of the Massachusetts Travel and Tourism. Kate, I messed this up, so I apologize.
I can hold it. Thank you so much. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. It is a beautiful, authentic April day in Massachusetts. And it is my pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you, Mayor Concannon, for inviting me to be part of this exciting event. We are so excited to support the revitalization of the historic Battle Road Memorial area, and to be here today in this beautiful space with a new monument that commemorates the city's Revolutionary War contributions and the history of the American Revolution in Massachusetts. I would like to recognize and extend my gratitude to the chairs for the Woburn 250th Committee, City Councilor Chuck Viola and historian Kathy Lucero. Chuck and Kathy had a vision for this monument, and together they have worked tirelessly to make sure that this historic Battle Road Monument was created to remember those who fought for our independence 250 years ago. We are grateful to have this monument in the city of Woburn that commemorates your city's history. We look forward at the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism to promoting more travel and visitation and awareness of the historic sites of Woburn, including this significant monument, the Woburn Historical Society Museum and Walking Trails, and beautiful Horn Pond. I offer my congratulations to all, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Kate. We will now hear from Mayor Michael P. Concanon.
Good. Morning, everyone. Morning. Beautiful spring morning. The birds are chirping. Forsythia is about to bloom. Everyone's nice and warm and dry. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Kate. I did have a 30-minute speech prepared, but my paper got all wet, so I'm not going to be able to read that. I apologize. I can email it out to everyone if you'd like to see it at some point. Thank you all for being here. Seriously, this is a great day for Woburn. Despite the weather, we have a huge crowd, enthusiastic support, and it's an important day to commemorate. First, I'd like to say thank you very much to the planners and organizers of today's event. It was mentioned briefly, there's been a committee working for about a year now to make this happen, led by Chuck Viola and Kathy Lucero. Other members of the committee, I'd just like to mention their names briefly because they work so hard. We have Casey Haggerty, John Cashell, Sheila McElhenney, Tyler Black, Darlene Wigton, Andrew Gillis, Joe Brown, Frank DeMauro, Chris Kissel, and Bob Davis. So thank you all very much to the committee. Thank you. The work that was done here was spearheaded by our own DPW, and we're very proud of the efforts of our DPW. They do more and more each day in our city, and they're demonstrating their capabilities at every turn. Things like the memorial, preparation of the site, the parking lot area, cleaning up of the Battle Road itself. We could not do it without them, and we're so proud to have a talented, dedicated team like our DPW to be able to do this for us. So thank you all very much to our DPW members. We also had some technical and design support from our own Bob Shore of Skylight Studios and Jeff Dawson of Dawson Associates. They helped us with the memorial plaque as well as the interpretive panel. Very professionally done. These are world-renowned, talented artists, and you'll be very impressed when you see their work. So thank you to them as well. We also have some sponsors who stepped up to help make this happen. There's some signage around the area. Colonial Music and family entertainment sponsor was Northern Bank and Trust, and then others helped us, stepped up to make sure we could do this and make it as professional and well done as you see here today. So thank you to our sponsors. There's some signage around the area. You can thank them if you get the chance to attend any of their events or go to any of their stores. So thank you to the sponsors. I'd also like to thank St. Barbara's. I don't know how many here took the shuttle bus up from the parking lot down there, but very gracious of them to allow us to park in their parking lot. They're great community partners here in Woburn. So thank you to St. Barbara's. Also, we have our guests, as mentioned. We have Kate Fox from the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, and Sheila Green, the State 250th Coordinator. We've met with them throughout this process. They've been very supportive, very helpful, gave us some guidance on how best to pull this off. And the idea was to make this part of not only the nation's celebration of 250th, but the Commonwealth's efforts as well. And we feel like we're setting the tone for what's to follow for the next year. So thank you to Kate and Sheila. Also had support from Patrice Tedisco from Freedom's Way National Heritage Area, and Brian Bradbury from the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau provided support as well as tangible financial support. We appreciate that very much. So thank you to them. As you look around today, you see we're graced by the presence of our two honor guards from Woburn, the Woburn Fire Department and the Woburn Police Department. Thank you very much for that. They were also joined by the Middlesex Sheriff's Office. Their honor guard has joined us, so we thank you very much for that. We thank Sheriff Katusian and his team for sending their delegation as well as a level of class to have these honor guards here. So thank you very much. And I know that you are standing out in the rain right now. We appreciate you being here. Also like to thank the details from the police and the fire that are out here keeping us safe today, making sure we can attend this event safely. You heard from the city band, and you heard from the fabulous Ella Toro. thank you very much for that. That was awesome. I've seen Ella perform several times now. She is going places. You can count on that. You will see her someday. In addition, we have the Lions Club cooking food for the group. The Lions Club always steps up. We appreciate that. I can say that I'm a fellow Lion, cooking delicious burgers and dogs, so please make sure you stick around and enjoy what they've prepared for us. Of course, thank you to our reenactors, adding a nice touch of authenticity to the event. Very nice. We appreciate you being here. We know that your big wool outfits are probably wet and cold right now too, so thank you for
Nice
your
and warm.
sacrifice. Nice and warm.
Nice and warm.
Very good. That's the positive attitude we're looking for. Thank you. So essentially, the reason we're here today is to make sure that we as a city commemorate our role in the nation's battle for freedom. And it's important to note that there were Wolverinites who marched right along this path to Lexington, and that morning in 1775. We know that there'll be events throughout our state and throughout the nation in the next year, and we're not trying to compete or vie for attention. We understand that starting next Saturday in Lexington and Concord, the nation's eyes and perhaps the world's eyes will be on this area of the country. But we wanted to make sure that we recognized the efforts and the sacrifice of those Wolverinites who marched and attended and participated and gave their lives. So this is a small commemoration of an incredibly important contribution to our nation. So we appreciate you all being here to make note of this, and for years to come, anyone who visits this area will see this beautiful monument and this helpful, informative, interpretive panel, and they'll know that Woburn took the time on the 250th anniversary to commemorate, honor, and appreciate the efforts and the sacrifice of those who answered the call, the alarm. With that, I would just say thank you all for braving the weather. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for everybody who made this happen, and I'll turn it back over to Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I know the mayor mentioned the sculptor of this beautiful monument, who I have worked with many times. And I really would like him to stand up because he is a Woburn treasure. We are bringing our third graders to his studio. We bring our adult trolley tours to his studio. Bob Shaw, will you please stand up because you are one wonderful person. That's beautiful work, beautiful work. I believe, let me just see. Well, this is when you're going to unveil the monument, Mayor. You want to do that right now? And I believe Chuck Viola, the alderman from Ward 7, and our Veterans Service Director, Bob Davis, does a great job also. Ready, let it roll. That monument has 265 men listed, plus Major at the time, Loami Baldwin. And for those who do genealogy, and many of us do, we get many phone calls from the Historical Society wondering, did my relative fight in the Revolutionary War? Well, if you're a Richardson, and I believe we have a Richardson ancestor, can you stand up, please? Thank you, Barnabas Richardson. And there were thousands of Richardsons, as we all know. They will come here and they'll be able to sit and think and look and see all the wonderful men and women. Also women, because the women were left behind to serve the city. But it's a gorgeous monument, so we're very, very proud of it. I would like at this time to introduce the man who led these men, Major Loami Baldwin. You a Starstruck? Your name is on the wall.
Good people of Woburn,
I am Major Lawami Baldwin, the commanding officer of the Woburn Militia. I bid you warning. Listen to my story, and then leave this path and go to your homes. For it is no longer safe to be on the road this day, because the king's men have done his bidding this morning. Last night, while it was late, British troops left Boston and marched to Concord, seeking arms of stores of ammunition that the militia had there. On their way, they passed through the village of Lexington, where Mr. Hancock and Mr. Adams were spending the night. We received an express rider while it was still dark, telling us this news. Captain Walker had our drummer beat the alarm, and our men formed as quickly as possible. We mustered at the appropriate place, the Foul Tavern. Before the sun had even risen in the sky, more than 180 men stood in ranks, waiting to march to Lexington. I rode on my horse ahead of the column. But before we had even left the confines of Woburn, a great firing was heard off in the distance. We quickened our pace as we continued to Lexington. Before too long, people were coming and heading from that direction, telling us what had happened there. 77 men of the local militia stood on their town common in defiance of the King of Great Britain. These men stood there saying that they would no longer be considered second-class citizens, no longer be considered the lapdog of the king waiting for table scraps from his hand. They stood against 800 of the king's troops. No one knows exactly what happened, but there was a shot that was fired. Lives were lost, and there was bloodshed. The British then marched on to Concord. As we arrived in Lexington, we saw about 8 or 10 men lying on the ground, dead and dying, and many more being carried away. Seeing that there was nothing more than we could do, we continued on to our appointed place of Concord. And before long, we ended up at the Lincoln Meeting House, where we stopped to take water and rest. At that point, suddenly converging upon us were militia from towns and cities from all around, giving us news that British flankers were on their way, and soon the might of the British Army from Boston would be heading down this road. I looked around and saw that I was the highest ranking officer of any that were here. So immediately I put to plan an idea for this area. Up ahead of us was an angle, very sharp in the road, where you couldn't see anyone coming until you were upon it. Immediately I put this plan into action. I had our men on either side of that angle, a little further into the woods, so that no one would be seen until they were upon us. We lay in wait for quite some time. Off in the distance we could hear the drums beating and the fifes playing, and before long we could hear the heavy leather shoes coming down the road. We waited what seemed an eternity, and finally they were upon us. When they got to that point of that angle, I gave the command to fire, and before long, black smoke filled the air, so much so that your throats were choked and your eyes were being burned. The sound of musket fire was so deafening that you could not even hear your own heart beating. I must say, our Woburn men did well. We had many great shots that day. 8 British soldiers lay dead. 9 officers of the British Army wounded because of our efforts. I myself had many great shots, while lead balls were flying past my head and hitting the ground around my feet. One of our own Woburn men, Daniel Thompson, an expert marksman by any account, was over at the barn by the Hartwell Tavern and was firing directly into the British column with devastating results. But suddenly a British soldier came up behind him and shot him in the back. His own brother witnessed this event and shot that British soldier dead. We continued to push the British on down that road to Menotomy. We were prepared, if we had to send them back to Boston and even back to England if need be. We pushed them to Menotomy and then back to the confines of Charlestown, where they got in rowboats and went to the safety of Boston. At that point, our men had nothing more to do but march back here to Woburn, bloody, weary, and tired. Some of the men rejoiced and said, "I'm so glad that this battle was over." I didn't have the heart to tell them that the battle wasn't over, but the war had just begun. Friends, I am weary and I am tired, and I must get home to my family. I bid you, do not stay on this road any longer, for it is no longer safe to be in the town that you live. Godspeed.
Loami, this is Tom Coots, a terrific reenactor from many towns, and he has been on our Pathway of the Patriots, has done the first burial ground of we did reenactments of the graves that are there. We're very lucky to have these wonderful reenactors, and Tom being one of them. Loami Baldwin was one of the movement's most prolific military, political, and social leaders that movement has ever produced. He remained in the fight and retained the rank of colonel in the Continental Army. He was an officer in general, he was an officer on General Washington's staff. He served with Washington in the evacuation of Boston, along with movement men. And then he went to the battles of Long Island and Trenton, when crossing the Delaware on Christmas Day, 1776, along with many other movement men who crossed the Delaware with General Washington. Returning to Woburn, he would serve as the state representative of Woburn. He would be named the first high sheriff of Middlesex County by the governor in 1780 under the new state constitution, but remembered for his role in the formation and the building of the Middlesex Canal. He is buried in the first burial ground on Park Street, which is on the National Historic Register, on his family tomb that you see at the obelisk when you go into the cemetery. As Loami Baldwin mentioned, Daniel Thompson, the brother of Samuel Thompson, who spoke, he rose to the alarm that morning before dawn. He was by the Stedman messenger out of Cambridge. He rode through North Woburn, which is called Village, North Woburn Village. And people did not want to serve, but he served with his brother. They met on Owl Tavern, which is right across from Everett Street in Woburn Center. And they went on and marched, as Loami Baldwin just told you. But we also had another death that day, because Woburn had two casualties. Ashel Porter, a farmer returning from the Boston market with Josiah Richardson. They were captured by the British on their return. He was at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was a non-combatant. Upon reaching the outskirts of Lexington Green, the British decided to let them go after they were captured coming back from Menotomy, which is Arlington now. They decided to let them go if they would listen to them and walk slowly. Well, you can imagine who did not listen. Ashel Porter ran, and they shot him in the back. And they left his body by the wall in Lexington, near Lexington Center. His body was returned and buried on April 21st, along with Daniel Thompson. And he too is buried at the first burial ground. Two heroes of that day. We also had 3 men who were wounded in the Battle of Lincoln in Concord. I'd like to introduce, if I could, my co-chair, Alderman Chuck Viola.
Thank you, Kathy. At this time, I'm going to present a resolve from the City Council here in Woburn. The resolve states as follows. Whereas Battle Road was one of the first 4 public ways laid out by the founders of Woburn in 1644, and whereas Battle Road was originally called Sawpit Lane, so called it is because it was used to transport wood and lumber from the sawmill of William Johnson, one of the first settlers of Woburn. And whereas the stone walls marking Battle Road were most likely built in the 1640s or 1650s. And whereas Battle Road was discontinued as a road shortly after the 1830s. And whereas this road has been known as Old Lexington Road. And whereas on April 19, 1775, 265 Woburn Patriots, led by Major Loami Baldwin, answered the call to arms. And whereas the Woburn Patriots marched along this route, they heard a great firing of muskets on Lexington Green. And whereas They hurried on to Lexington to join the pursuit of the British to Concord, and to later engage the regulars with punishing fire at Bloody Angle. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Woburn that the Woburn City Council recognizes and acknowledges that this memorial commemorates Woburn's participation in the American Revolution and honors the militiamen who began their journey on this battle road that ended 8 years later with the founding of a new country, the United States of America. Thank you all for being here today on this cool, rainy Saturday morning. Today is accumulation of over 11 months of planning and designing and meeting of a dedicated group of community members, historians, and local leaders working together to commemorate Woburn's role in the American Revolution. We are proud to commemorate Woburn's significant role in the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775. I personally would like to thank the 250th Anniversary Committee members for bringing history to life and to mention them by name. Kathy Lucero, my co-chair, Casey Haggerty, John Cashel, Chris Kissel, Bob Davis, Tyler Black, Joe Brown, Andrew Gillis, Sheila McElhenney, Frank DeMoro, and Darlene Wigton. Thank you to the City of Woburn Planning Department, especially Economic Development Director Casey Haggerty, who secured a grant from the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism and Freedom's Way National Heritage Area. Both grants were significant and helped pay for a large portion of this memorial and event. Prior to being elected as the Ward 7 City Councilor, I always wanted to see something done with this site. I always saw the potential, and especially since it was on the historic Battle Road. I want to thank Mayor Concannon for giving me the opportunity to help preserve some of Woburn's most historic lands and allow for a new Revolutionary War memorial to be displayed here in Ward 7, as well as in the City of Woburn. My late father was always fascinated with history, and he passed that love down to me, which is why I was thrilled when I was asked to be the co-chair of this committee and work on this historic project. At this time, I'd like to thank some of our elected officials and dignitaries that are here today. Councilor at Large Bob Ferrulo, Councilor at Large Rob Toro, Councilor Ward 5 Darlene Mercer Bruin, Councilor Ward 6 Lou DeMambro. With us also is Chief Rufo of the Police Department, Chief Kenton of the Fire Department, Veterans Agent Bob Davis, the United Veterans Council, as we said before, Sheila Green from the Mass 250th Anniversary Coordinator, and Woburn Public Media Center. Thank you once again for attending today and enjoy the rest of the program.
I'd like to introduce, if I could now, State Representative Richard Haggerty. I know he's here. Here you are.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, everybody, for being here this morning. And it's great to be joined by my colleagues in the legislature.
Oh, sorry, didn't realize.
We have the senator from Monotony here with us today, or Arlington. And, of course, the representative from this portion of Woburn, as well as, of course, Lexington as well. So I've got a citation here from the legislature. I'm not going to read this entire thing, given the weather. But I just want everybody to know, and I think we want everybody to know, that we're so appreciative of the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism and the efforts you make through the legislature to be able to get out here to do these types of events, to fund these types of projects. It's critical. And to Kathy and to Chuck and everybody on the committee, Mayor Concannon, continue to keep Woburn's history alive. You know, this is something that the last 20 years or so has just been a joy to watch. To be able to be a part as a city councilor, and now to be able to join everybody here today as state rep to celebrate Battle Road, the incredibly important role that it played in the American Revolution. And men and women right here from our community, we're standing in the footsteps of literally where they walked to defend the ideals and the hopes and dreams of so many people. And for me, to be able to be here with all of you is a real joy, and for all of us to be able to be here with all of you is a real joy. So congratulations to all involved. Senator Friedman.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you to everyone, to the Mass Tourism, to the mayor, to all of you who worked so hard to put this together. I'm just reminded that we hear this saying, it takes a village. Well, sometimes it takes a number of villages. And we focus a lot on actually where the action took place, but it took people from all of the communities to come together to support the cause of freedom. And we need to remember that. And that's what's so wonderful about being here in Woburn today, because it's a reminder of the role that this town played to get us all to freedom. So thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you all being here, and I hope you get to get warm soon.
Good morning, hardy patriots. I'm so impressed that everyone has hung in there for this wonderful program. I'm State Representative Michelle Sicolo, and like Rich, I'm not going to read the materials that I brought. I had a much longer statement, but I will share a couple of quick things. I'm from Lexington, and I also represent this section of Woburn. And I know that there's a big to-do about what's going on in Lexington and Concord, but I took the time to do a little bit more research about the Woburn men that fought that day. And it is so important for us to remember that there were 265. There are only 77 to 80 people fighting on the Lexington Green that day. The Minutemen were a very small force in that very first skirmish, and if it weren't for the communities like Woburn, who sent so many people, 11% of your population at that time answered the call, which is incredible. You know, we don't hear enough about these very brave acts that our neighbors engaged in, and we would not have the new nation that we have today if it weren't for their actions. I also want to share briefly, it is super fun for me that my son is a reenactor in the Lexington Minuteman, and he portrays Sylvanus Wood, who is a Woburn resident. So he'll be marching on the green for his first time on Saturday in your honor. So thank you. I want to just say thank you again to everybody who organized, Chuck and Kathy, the mayor, our Mass Office of Travel and Tourism folks. We're so cold we can't even speak. And to all of you for being here today. What a great day. Thanks.
Thank you. It is hard to speak. That's not, that doesn't bother me usually, but my tongue doesn't want to work. So I apologize. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. It is cold. Please stand while they walk away, please. Big hand for the Woburn City Band standing out there in the rain. They are always wonderful. Thank you. Just so you know, you can have a seat, please. Thank you. Woburn was one of the first towns to be on the green. They were 20 minutes late after the battle started, but there would be 27 communities that fought that day for our freedom. At this time, I would like to bring up my co-chair, Chuck Viola, and the members of the Woburn 250th Committee to unveil the signage that is right over here. Is Jeff Dawson with us today? I didn't know if I saw him. He is the designer that laid out this beautiful, he does many historical signages throughout the state and in other states here. So over here to your right will be the signage. It will tell you the history of Battle Road. Are we all here? I hope the children will come when the weather's better. and read it and walk down Battle Road. I hope it is weatherproof. There were many heroes and legends from Woburn that played an important role on April 19th, 1775, such as who was just mentioned, Sylvanus Wood. Sylvanus Wood was living at Kendall Farm in what we now know the present-day Four Corners. He heard the Lexington bell go off, 3 o'clock in the morning. He knew there was trouble. He gathered with his musket and headed over, accompanied by Robert Douglas Jr., who lived at the intersection of Locust Street and Cambridge Road. They heard it. They got to the green before Loami Baldwin and the Woburn Militia. It took the militia, it was a 6-mile walk for the Woburn Militia from Fowl Tavern. It took them 2 hours to walk that. Those 2 men were there. They arrived in time to join the ranks of Captain Parker's Lexington Minutemen on the green. Both of these men faced the British assault along with the Lexington militia. After the battle, Sylvanus helped with the wounded and dead, and then proceeded to fight. While he was headed to Concord, about a mile from Lexington Center, he came across a British grenadier. And anyone who knows what a British grenadier is, they were about 6 feet tall. In those days, that's very tall. They had to be very strong, and they were great fighters. But he was sitting along, this British grenadier was sitting along the road, and they say he was relieving himself, but I'm not really sure if that's historically accurate, but that's what Sylvanus led us to believe. The heck with marching on. But he was quickly captured by Sylvanus Wood. He is credited with capturing the first POW of the American Revolution, and it would take him till 1824 to get his pension. Wood would continue his service in the Revolutionary War. He would become a lieutenant in the Continental Army. So he was he's also buried at Woodbrook Cemetery. He was reinterred from the second burial ground in 1845 and is reinterred over there in a beautiful monument. Another brave citizen on that day was Hezekiah Wyman, another legend, who lived in South Woburn, which is now Winchester, because you have to remember, for those who don't know, Burlington was Woburn, Winchester was Lexington, and at one time part of Wilmington. This Mr. Hezekiah Wyman is known as the White Horseman, and I would like to introduce you to Sarah Reed, his wife, and Hezekiah Wyman. I think Sarah might be coming up first.
Hezekiah. Hezekiah, they're all waiting for us. Good morning. It's a pleasure to see all of you here today, and it is our honor to visit you in the year 2025. Mr. Samuel Thompson is quite a firebrand, isn't he? And I always enjoy listening to the esteemed Major Baldwin. Oh, excuse me, I've learned he became Colonel Baldwin. The Continental Army honored his bravery and leadership, especially that first day, the 19th of April, 1775. And on that first day, as men were picking up their muskets and rushing to join the column of Woburn's men to march to Lexington, women too were active and concerned. The world's greatest army was on the march, heading our way, and no one could be certain if they would pass by or if one's property would be looted and destroyed. Many women packed up their children and valuables, such as their Bible, silverware, ledger books, and jewelry, and raced to safety. Excuse me a moment. Hezekiah. He's always been so willful, always going his own way. Here he comes. I was just about to mention that Major Baldwin and Samuel Thompson lived in North Woburn.
Yes.
Oh, beg your pardon. Thank you. Normally, I only get to see these gentlemen on days when there's a town meeting or there are Sunday services. Oh, thank you. Well, I'll take this, yes. Sarah and I live in the south of Woburn, near Mystic Pond. Perhaps you know that location. On land my family bought from your father, Daniel Reed. You do come from a venerable Woburn family going back nearly to the town's founding.
Oh, so too with the Wyman's husband. Francis and John, tanners by trade, were founders of Woburn nearly, well, to all of you, nearly 4 centuries ago. John's son Seth was a captain. His son Seth, my dear husband's father, was the famous Ensign Wyman. So it's no surprise to me that you did something extraordinary on April 19th, 1775.
Ah, yes, wife. There's a story about me.
Oh, not just any story. It's a spectacular story. You're a legend. You rode your white horse with your white hair flowing in the wind, and every time you shot your musket, another redcoat soldier met his maker. They were soon all quaking at the sight of you.
Posh. Those redcoat bloody-back scoundrels were quaking because militias from 37 towns were chasing and firing at them all the way from Concord to the Charlestown Peninsula. This story was written almost 70 years after I died. The writer, whoever the anonymous miscreant was, got everything all wrong.
Not everything.
They said we saw the Battle of Lexington from our house.
Poetic license.
Saying I was 60 years old. I was only 54.
Well, truth be told, husband, you do look old for your years. It's the white hair, darling.
Truth, though. Very well. Very well. I'll let the age slide. But this story, this claims the British soldiers began calling me Death on a Pale Horse. Hard to believe. They were too busy running to notice me riding a horse.
Aha. Not so. They noticed. A kind person has furnished me with this. It's from the diary of one of His Majesty's officers, a certain Frederick Mackenzie, and it reads, "Numbers of them were mounted, and when they had fastened their horses at some little distance from the road, they crept down near enough to have a shot. As soon as the column had passed, they mounted again and rode around until they got to the head of the column and found some convenient place from whence they might fire again. These fellows were generally good marksmen, and many of them used long guns for duck shooting." Well, husband?
Dear wife, you've always been very good with your arguments. Death on a pale horse. It's starting to grow on me.
Thank you, dear husband. And there is one other thing you all should know, Hezekiah. Tell them about your last will and testament in 1779. The farm animals you bequeathed to our son Daniel.
Let's see. There was the team of red oxen, a steer, 2 cows, 3 heifers, and a white mare.
Well, shall we end with the last lines of the White Horseman from 1835? When Hezekiah returns home from his legendary adventure, I ask, "Where have you been, husband?"
Picking cherries. But I forgot to say that I first made cherries of the redcoats by putting the pits into them.
That's Claire and Chris Hurley. And they do many reenactments for Lexington and others, so we're very grateful to have them. And that is the White Horseman is a book that the children read, and it's a very famous book, and there is a lot of truth to it. So in spite of whatever, they did a great job. I would like to, if I could at this time, in honor of our men whose names are on this wall, this memorial, have a firing of the muskets in honor of their march on Battle Road. Gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Thank you. Please remember to take pride in the fact that Woburn men were on the first days of the rebellion, fighting for equality and freedom. They were there for the birth of a nation with blood and treasure. Woburn men would go on 2 months later, on June 17, 1775, at the Battle of Bunker Hill, Breed's Hill, where we would suffer additional casualties. We would see 18 Woburn patriots of color that fought at Bunker Hill and other battles until the war ended in 1783. It would be the last time the American military would be integrated until the Korean War. Close to 400 men from Woburn would serve throughout the Revolutionary War until it officially ended in 1783 with the signing of the Paris Peace Treaty. We owe them a great debt of gratitude. This new memorial will be a constant reminder for future generations. May we never forget their service and sacrifice, like all of our veterans here today and future veterans. Thank you very much. I'm very happy you all came. Thank you to everyone. There's so many people. I hope you had a great time. Please go to the monument. You may have a relative on the wall. Thank you.